So I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm here with Len Collin talking about his fabulous film Sanctuary for Film Ireland podcast. Sanctuary existed as a play first. It was commissioned to be written by Christian. How did yourself and Christian kind of get involved together to work on this as a feature?
Well, Christian and I knew each other already through TV3's Deception. We had met through that. We had also met because, strangely enough, initially we were both up for the same job at Blue Teapot Theatre Company, where because I got involved because they wanted to make a short film.
Yes.
So they were looking for a writer to write the short film, and myself and Christian were up for the job on that occasion, and I got it on that occasion. But obviously Christian, they really liked Christian, and they called him back and commissioned him to write Sanctuary, and Petal wanted to write, she wanted the Teapots to do a play that was about that issue of intimacy within the world of intellectual disability, and the fact that they're always being watched. They're never alone. They're never allowed to be on their own.
Yeah.
And so by the time that the play came out, I was already working part-time teaching the actors how to act on camera. So we had done we didn't ever make the short film, but we performed it at Culture Night in 2011 in the Druid Theatre, and I directed that performed reading, which we did almost like a stage play. But yes, when I saw the play, it just blew me away, really, because it was the interaction between the actors and the audience. There was kind of like an unwritten contract, which there always is between actors and an audience when you go and see a live play. But this contract made the audience kind of almost participate because there was such warmth and joy in the room. And that was partly because before the play started, Petal announced she was directing the play. She announced that on occasion the actors may forget a line, and she would prompt them, and she would prompt them loudly. Well, this became a performance part of the play, particularly with an actor like Patrick Becker, who plays Andrew in the film. But if he got a laugh, it would kind of throw him. So he'd kind of say, "Okay, calm down, audience, calm down. I've forgotten my line," and he'd make a piece of it. He'd kind of step out of character, get the line, and then into character again. And this became a wonderful thing to witness. But of course, what clicked in my head at that point was, this is why film is their medium.
Yeah.
Because they can forget lines, or they can do things differently, because we do it again and again and again. And when I saw them, the different actors have different abilities, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And if you can write towards those abilities, and if you can compensate for that, their attitude itself is 100% professional.
Yeah.
Not one argument on set, not one crossword. But what they will do is, if they don't understand what you want them to do, they'll ask you.
Yeah.
If they don't like what you want them to do, they'll tell you. And if they think it's stuff, they'll just say, "No, that's silly, Len, I'm not doing that." so you quickly, it's interesting because they don't have that kind of side to them, where I know certainly as an actor myself, and when I've been directed, what it feels like to get a note. And the first thing that goes through your head as an actor is, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And you're paranoid, and you kind of, and it's why I admire actors, because they go out there and they do it. And they're exposing themselves, and they're exposing themselves to raw emotion quite a lot. Okay. And that's something that most people in private life do not do. And it's why we have this kind of whole reality TV culture now, because the people who go up on reality TV like to expose their emotions. The actors do it in a crafted way. In reality shows, it's more just the personality of the person. But the guys working with them, that was so refreshing, because you knew they'd always give 100%, and you knew they were always trying to give you exactly what you asked of them. So that was something that, while I was watching the play, seeing this, knowing through working with them, I afterwards we went to the pub, as you do.
Of course.
Massimo's in Galway.
Great for food as well.
It's great for food. And it's a Chelsea pub as well. I'm a Chelsea football fan, so they always show the Chelsea matches there.
Brilliant.
Well, I've probably made loads of enemies now, Man United fans, Liverpool fans. But what was fantastic about that was, we were in the pub, we were talking about the play, and I just said, you really should make this as a movie. It's a movie. There's never been a movie like this, and I know they can do it.
Yeah.
And Petal graciously said to me at that point, she said, "Well, if we do, you've got to direct it." I go, no, you direct it. You directed the play. And here we are all these years later, and I've ended up directing it. So that's kind of how it started. But it was certainly also, the script was so good. Yeah. And what's great about Christian's writing is his subtlety. Yeah. He just finds these wonderful little turns, this wonderful little turn of phrase, or the beauty of his sensibility is throughout the script. He really caught them spot on, and that's why it works, because it was written towards those actors. And of course, we included the actors very much at every stage of development. So that was happening during the play. And then when we decided to make it into a film, obviously we were doing a lot of work without knowing whether we were ever going to get the money to make the film. But Christian did a draft, and I'd give him notes on it, and then
there was words exchanged.
What, between myself and Christian?
Yeah.
Has he been talking?
He did on the EPK.
Yeah, he does. He does say that. It's, I mean, it's tricky because clearly I'm a writer.
Yes.
And I know how to edit a script, and I know how to write a script.
And when it's a project that you both really care about and are very, very close to as well, strong points of view obviously are going to be had.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, as he says on the EPK, actually, he says, it was difficult at times.
And it was made it better.
And it was, because it's hard when I still consider myself a writer first and foremost, because that's what I've done for most of my life. And I want to direct more movies, and that's where I want my future to go. But I know what it's like when you slogged your guts out to write a script, and someone comes along and says, that bit that you really loved, that's got to go.
Yeah. And
there may be justified reasons for it, but it still hurts.
Yeah.
And you react to that. You react to that instantly. It's a pain. It's awful. You've exposed if we talked about actors exposing themselves on film, writers expose themselves on the page. And that is so difficult to do. I can't remember who said the quote that writing's easy. You've just got to stare at a blank page or a blank screen until your forehead bleeds. I can't remember who said that, but it's a brilliant quote. But that's what it's like. So I have utmost respect for writers, utmost respect for Christian. But we fought over bits and pieces, not least the end, actually. Anyone who saw the play ends in a mock wedding.
Yeah.
And I said, that's got to go. It will not work on a film, because it's fine on stage because the audience have been on that journey with the actors. Film, it feels like you should be more able to jump into the screen and be part of that movie process.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite work like that, because you've got to earn that respect to begin with. And I think, actually, funny enough, I think the movie does do that to a degree now. Yeah. But there were things in the play, for example, like the character of Andrew, played by Patrick, was written as a young person. I.e., he's supposed to be in his 20s. Now you can get away with that on stage, but Patrick is in his mid-40s, I think.
Yeah.
So the energy of the actors when they come on in the play, they all run into the cinema. But you put a camera in a cinema and then have a bunch of people running in, it would just look really odd. Yeah. But you have that energy on stage because you can buy into that theatricality. So there were things like that had to change. And obviously there were little kind of babies that were in the play, those little darlings that had to be stabbed and killed, and so that's a difficult process. But we're still friends, and we get on, and I genuinely think the script deserves awards.
Oh, the dialogue was just so snappy and fantastic. A lot of Irish films can be so somber and heavy, and it's just there's such a lightness and funniness. The characters are so warm, and there's just such a lovely relationship, especially between the two leads. Like your heart is bleeding for them, and I do like it. It's a stunning film. Like, it's just gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, you really did the play justice. I think anyway. So that did very well.
Thank you.
But yeah. Then I know you guys were up for the Catalyst. How is getting funding for the project?
Well, that was interesting in itself. So what happened? We had been working on the script. So initially it was myself and Christian really powering the project because Petal was obviously getting on with the day-to-day running of Blue Teapot Theatre Company. But every time we got a draft, we would send it to Petal and Sonia at Blue Teapot Theatre Company and hopefully get notes from them. We didn't always get notes because they were so busy. So very much it was us doing it. And then Catalyst happened. And we straight away thought, this is our chance to get a producer. And both of us quite independently said, have you got anyone in mind? Yeah, I've got someone in mind. Who you got anyone in mind? Yeah. And who you got in mind? Edwina Falkin. Oh, that's really odd. I have Edwina in mind as well. And I can't remember how Christian knew Edwina, but I knew her because she taught us at Houston.
Oh, brilliant.
So at the film school, Edwina came up and did the producer sections. And I think Edwina had also read a script of mine previously as well, but we'd never actually met. Yeah. So we both felt that Edwina had the right sensibility for this project, that she's great fun to be around, and that she would warm to the teapots as such.
Yeah.
So what happened then was we went down to Catalyst, and I made a proof of concept film. So we went and we rented Jury's Inn in Galway, and we shot in a hotel room there. We told them what we were doing and everything, obviously. And we did that as part of a class, so it's really funny. But I shot the condom scene. Brilliant. From the play. We got Robert up to do it. And so it was Kieran and Robert. Charlene was in it as well, but it's really interesting to see how far she had come along, because I had to cut her out of the test scene that I did at that point because she was just not quite right at that time. And I edited this scene together. It was funny while shooting it, actually, because there was a whole class of people behind us in the room. So there was about 25 people in this small hotel room. We shot this. It worked as a scene. It's still actually up on the internet, I think. I think you can kind of get access to it. And I think it was also shown on the EPK. And we showed that to Edwina, and she just laughed at it. And it was kind of hard. We're in the Radisson Hotel, and she's looking at it on an iPad, and I've plugged earphones into her, and she's laughing away. And she just love it. She just said, love it. That would then sound quite easy, but obviously I think about every filmmaker in the country went to the Radisson that day, and we were all to form teams and projects, and we went in with Edwina with Sanctuary, and we happened to get shortlisted. So I think they had 100 projects that were put in, 9 were shortlisted, and we went for the interview down at the film board, and they said to us, we thought it'd gone really, really well. It felt like a really good interview. Obviously, I can talk. Christian can talk. Edwina just sat there smiling, answering the important questions about money. Yeah. And they said to us, "We think you need more money." And I thought at that point, "Oh, we've not got this." I didn't say anything because it still felt like it had gone well. But I thought that's the nicest reason why we're ever going to get turned down. Yeah. But they were genuine about it. They said, "We think you need more money. Apply to us through the normal means, apply to the BAI, and let's see what we can do." And effectively, that's what happened. And the BAI were fantastic, actually. They've been really supportive too. It's well worth pointing that out. So between the two, and RTE came in as well with a little pot of money, that gave us the funding to make the film. It was... I think from when Catalyst started we started shooting in December of 2015 and finished mid-January of 2016. And then the editing process began, and we were obviously then came out at the Galway Film Flower. We were closing film last year. And
was it lovely to get to see it with everybody?
I know, I was too nervous. It really is funny because I don't think I've ever been so nervous in all my life as that day. And it's partly because I love the Flower. I try to go every year. And I obviously did when I was in Westport. I would go down every year since 2010.
Yeah, I think as well, if you're working on a project for that long and it's been like a labour of love for a good time of it, sometimes seeing it and seeing how well it's received must be a massive relief.
Absolutely. And it's true what you say about the length of time as well, because it's one thing to film it, it's one thing to work with the actors, but we were talking about Christian and I and how we got on, but also Julian Ulrichs, our editor. You know, anyone who knows anything about editing give the guy a prize. Give the guy a prize, because he did a fantastic job, because he was editing as we were going along. And you watch the film and it's seamless pretty much. I mean, there's continuity errors in it. There's always going to be continuity errors in anything you do, particularly low budget and particularly with our cast and everything else. So there's things that I look at and I'm going, oh, that person was there then, and this next shot they're there. But nobody notices that on the first run. But Julian had to edit that. He had to. There were times when he was saying to me, "I'm wondering about this look. Is that look? Is that the best reaction?" I'm going, "Yeah, that's them. That's their reaction. That's how that looks good to me." He's going, "No, but I don't know." And it was a learning process for him, but he learned so quickly. But also his talent as an editor. He worked on Sing Street as well. He's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. Himself and Russell and Michael Lamass, our sound guy. I want to work on every film with those guys, because they were just so good. And my feeling is, as a director, I want the best. I'm happy to be proved wrong. And as an example of that, Julian kept saying to me about a particular scene we had at the front of the film. And he said, that's got to go. It's getting in the way. And it was the two boys, actually. It was Frank and Paul. And it's a nice little scene. And I like the scene, but I was too attached to it, in the same way that Christian would have been attached to certain parts of the play. Yeah. And he said to me, you've got to get rid of it, got to get rid of it. And I went, no, I think it'll work, And we did a test screening in Dublin, and a few comments were, it's a little bit slow at the start. And I thought about this, and And the next day I remember going to have breakfast in a little cafe in Dublin, and I was on my way. And I went, can I swear? I went, feck it.
Oh, sorry, you're asking me. Sorry. I thought you were asking the people when you were in breakfast, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine, it's the internet.
My head exploded, because I just knew, he's right, it's that scene. That's what stops it. That's what upset. And I texted him straight away, and I said, you're right, we'll cut it. And the rest is history. It just worked. It was just, as he rightly said, we've got to stay with our couple at the beginning. Stay with them, their story, their journey in. That will work. And this little scene with Paul and Frank, as nice as it was, it just took us out of the moment. And we didn't need that little bit of explanation that was in there. And so, that's the whole thing about making film, is you learn as well. As long as you're open to learn, things get better. And as long as you trust the people you're working with as well. So, I would trust Russ if he told me that a shot I was asking for was too much, or, if it was a good shot, then I knew it was a good shot and we were on the right track. It's a conversation, it's a dialogue, it's respecting the people you're working with. Yeah. And that was how the whole thing went. There were no arguments. There was, as I say, it got a bit heated in the editing room at times with Julian, but I would have no hesitation in recommending him to anyone, but hands off, I want him for my next film. So.
But the pacing is absolutely perfect, because it's this beautiful, tragic story of some star-crossed lovers, and then you have these beautiful moments of comedy from these wacky kind of side characters who your heart opens up to immediately, and the beats just work perfectly. And then the comic timing, the juxtaposition from a certain shot to the next scene, it works really well. And the sound is so well put together and really lifts it again. The mood, the energy of it keeps going and really keeps you focused throughout the whole thing. So that's another thing I wanted to ask you actually was about the sound edit.
The sound edit's interesting, yes. I'm really into sound, and Michael Lamass, again, I think he is a stunning sound guy. He is so, that thing that everyone always says, that the drummer is always the weirdo in the band, the goalkeeper is always the weirdo in the football team, and the sound guy is always the weirdo on the film set. Yeah, well, I like Michael, and I'm a bit weird like that too, because I would sometimes, I'd listen through cans, and I'd go, what's that buzz, what's that noise? And we'd be looking for some machine that's in a corner somewhere, or I think sound is all too important. It is absolutely possibly even more important than the image, because if you can't hear a line, or if you can't hear what's going on, it takes you out of the film. And a good example of Michael's skill was, and Russ's skill actually combined, was we were supposed to be filming on the night of Storm Desmond. In fact, the storm kicked up while we were filming, and we were supposed to do exterior shots. And where we had originally planned to do a particular shot, we couldn't do it there. And I said, well, look, let's go down to Spanish Arch because we'll get a bit of shelter there, and it looks good. Let's film the scene there. So it's the scene with Tom, the care worker, and Claire, the hotel receptionist, where he goes in for the kiss. And it looks great, beautifully lit, very romantic.
And they just came from Shop Street, so
yeah,
nearby, so it makes sense as well.
It's movie location, though. It is. The geography of Galway is a little bit. Yes, sorry, people from Galway.
I thought it worked because that's close. It's not far,
well, the whole of Galway is close to a degree, but there are kind of people walk out some doors and end up in different parts of Galway. It was blowing a gale, and there was also a huge generator where they had the beer house for the Christmas market. So there's a big constructed bar there, and Michael managed to get the dialogue recorded pretty much perfectly. It's not as perfect as we would want. If we had a bigger budget, we would have obviously been able to do other things with it, or even paid the bar to turn off their generators or move them. But it works brilliantly. It's still there. You go with the scene. You make do with that little kind of issue with sound. But any other sound person other than Michael, he's just so good. He got that, and we could use it. And that was great. We did no dubbing on that at all, because I thought, well, we'll film it and we'll probably have to dub it. But we didn't. So that's an indication of his skill. But therefore, the sound always was important to me. What were we going to hear? What were we going to hear? And that came in also the form of the choice of songs that we had. I always knew I wanted to use Violent Femmes.
Yes.
And it was also to do with our composer, Joe Conlon. I think Joe did the music for Lily as well, because he often does work with Graham. And I've worked with Joe on everything I've done. He's an amazing composer, and I always give him tricky things to do as well. Yeah. And he's just fantastic, and his score is so subtle throughout the film. And it was lovely to see. I think we had a review today in the Times that mentioned Joe as well, which was fantastic, because usually score composers don't, unless you're Leonard Bernstein or Williams or what's his name, Beetlejuice. Danny Elfman, but very much that soundscape all has to work together. That sound edit all has to work together. So it was quite a long sound edit, and putting in all the Foley, sound effects, music, different channels. We did do some ADR, not as much as I thought we'd have to do. In fact, it was only 2 days ADR that we had to do, and I defy you to find the places where it is, because the guys at Gorilla, Barry Reed, who runs Gorilla, did a fantastic job and really went out their way for us. They really believed in the project, and I can't recommend them highly enough for that as well. But just spot on stuff. So that was important to me, and it's all kind of come together in that technical way. And I think it's interesting actually, because it's, I'm not a young person, as you can tell, and I've been around a bit, but it's interesting where you find yourself in your life, because I think if I tried to make a film like this earlier in my career, I'd have messed it up. Definitely would have messed it up, but I've got the patience now, the respect now, and it just all came together in this particular moment. I don't know whether that will happen again.
Yeah, and it's very important subject matter as well. Definitely people with disabilities aren't fully represented in television. Are you happy with the story that you told? Would you like to do more?
With the way the story is told in this film, I think yes, I am. I don't think there's anything I would really change. I have been asked, I can't remember who asked it, but somebody asked me about, you don't see any point in the film where the guys are abused by the members of the public. Yeah. There's nobody shouts horrible words at them or anything like that, which is part of their lives, actually. They do get that. And, I've seen it personally as well, and had to deal with it on occasions. But within the film, I think we did have a scene where we were going to have people kind of tutting and what have you in the cinema, the talking that goes on. There's a little bit of that, but actually it's happening because it's quite reasonable that if you go to a cinema, you should be able to expect to watch the film without people having conversations behind you. And I think it doesn't need to be there because we all know that, we all see that. And the power of this film, I think, is in the fact that I've had so many people come up to me after the film. In particular, I'm reminded of in Sydney in Australia, where a woman came up at the end of the film and said, she was crying and she just said, I never realised, I'm 60 years old and I never realised that people with intellectual disabilities have the same thoughts and feelings that I have and the same wants and desires. And she felt bad because of that. But I thought about that and I thought, you've got no reason to feel bad because actually it's never been on our screens. We don't see that because it's either an issue-led drama or it'll be a documentary about those things like, what's that wonderful documentary that was done in the 60s about the mental institution? Film history going out my head at the moment, but everyone's going to be telling me what that is. Titfield Follies?
Comment below. And
Titfield Follies, I think it is. Yeah. Something like that. It's something like that. But, that's what people are used to. Or then the over-theatricalised Tom Hanks playing Forrest Gump, Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman, even to a degree Daniel Day-Lewis playing someone with a physical disability, which is cerebral palsy. Everyone thinks that's intellectual disability. It's not. It's a physical disability. But we're used to seeing that. But seeing real actors on our screen who have the disabilities that they're supposed to have in the movies, we don't see that very often, and we especially don't see it with intellectual disability. And as much as people love the film Garage, and I think Garage is a great film, and Lenny's a great director, and Pat's a great actor. Yeah. I just always say, imagine that film now that you've seen Sanctuary with Kieran Coppinger in the role of Josie. That it'd be a different film, and it's because I don't think it's acceptable anymore for an able actor to get up and gurn away at the camera pretending that. And I've done this myself, I have to say. I played plenty of dim-witted burglars that clearly, if I look back on it, that was an intellectually disabled character. As actors, we want to do the work. Yeah. And we also want to inhabit that person. It is worth talking about that from an actor's perspective. Daniel Day-Lewis clearly wanted to inhabit the characters that he does it so much Christy Brown, Lincoln, the guy he plays in Gangs of New York. He transforms himself because he wants to occupy that person. And it is my theory that actors are kind of self-loathing to a degree, and that's why they spend their time wanting to be someone else. But I only know that and can say that because I've done that. Yeah. And I think writers are very similar as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds very familiar as a writer.
Well, the only difference is we're megalomaniacs because we play all the characters.
Definitely.
So I think there's something to do with that. But the power of the film is in that cast. It is in the fact that we use humour as a weapon rather than bashing people over the head with social realism. Though I love social realism, but for this, it was the way they wanted to tell the story as well.
I think it does come across that it's their voice and it's their world. I do think it does something special that a lot of other films haven't done.
I think people are better for seeing it. Yeah. It really is odd, but it does change people. Again, people come out laughing, people come out crying. And it's not that sad, but it's just you. One friend of mine who is a writer said to me that when they first started watching it, they were so amazed by what they were seeing on the screen that they forgot to follow the story for a bit. But then they go into it and they just forget that they're watching disabled actors on screen, or actors with disabilities is the correct way to say it. They forgot that and they just follow the story. And I think it does drag you in. And I must have seen it, God knows how many times now. But I still go in and sit and watch it if I'm doing a Q&A or if there's space. And it always drags me in as well. And I sometimes forget that I've directed it and just get involved with that world that's on the screen. But again, it's not that often in this day and age of the superhero film, the big tentpole blockbusters, that you can actually go and watch a film that really affects you emotionally, that really affects you in terms of telling you something that you've never seen before.
On that note, everybody make sure that they catch Sanctuary, which is out in cinemas. And which cinemas now? Where can they see it?
Now I have to remember all the cinemas. It is on in Galway. It's on at the iCinema and the IMC cinemas in Galway. So everyone knows where they are. And then in Dublin, we are on at the IFI. We are on the Lighthouse Cinema. We are on at IMC in Dunleary. And we are also on in Dundrum. I can always, because I always go to say Movie World, which is the Mayo Castle Bar Cinema. Dundrum Movies Dundrum.
I think so.
Yes. Fantastic cinema. It's in the Mets. I've been in there. It's really luxurious. So get along to one of those screenings.
Excellent. And thanks so much for talking to us.
No, thank you, Gemma. Excellent. It's been a pleasure.